Colonization's laws were a fact treatment, organized crime, torture method. A fact treatment nature torture method with early states too. A fact treatment torture method against our founders, who had to pretend they had laws already before the births of our founders. Internation sciences were entrenched in Connecticut, above Connecticut, below Connecticut, below the border. All with nations of identities forced greater than themselves, and as reaction natures to terrors, worse than terrors, an organized crime method, using fact treatment nature consciously, its weapon. Now what this is about is internation, in other words, not just the realized, recorded nations involved with slavery. That was black agencies from different, they took people from different parts of Africa because they cultivated roles within outstanding criminal, intercultural agencies were only realized as predators through only realized predator sciences, through only realized areas cultivated criminal insidious natures first, then to roles with this through criminally re-engineered sciences, then industries all juxtaposed like this with an outstanding live progression government up natures, as a bridge fact treatment natures, as a bridge constitution needing to blame live progressions on other tied to database relationships. Before computers, slavery was a crazy database relationship with all kinds of other laws. Everyone was a slave, even our founders. Of course it was worse on people with darker pigment to date. And this was their fact treatment torture. Worse than terrorism. It's a torture because it's also multi-front, insidious, with their arms around them, having no lack of legal representation, originally progressed uncharged, blamed on other, not by accident, invested, needed to be. We have intercultural psychologists, mostly white, but also recorded with hate crimes, with KKK-themed rape threats, Confederate flag, passions faked, recorded, fake, live progression cover-up natures. That's why they can't respond to me. That's why they hide child abuses through time. They're also, this is nature of where the judges involved with the child abuses are blaming other people for the live progressions caused to it, tied to it. Their roles with the internation sciences, criminally influenced with our areas once, only that realized originally progressed. This is why they don't have the shared enemy that George Washington, that the French, and that Germany, and that the Jews had demonstrated, recorded. The extent of it is debatable. But when you take what's not debatable about it, and you stay just with that, noting exceptions, it shows it's not debatable. It shows you more and more. It's called ratiocination. It doesn't work with opinions. Opinions say, "Oh, it's racism. It should be moved against." Then to all areas, you're leaving that up to in other words, you're leaving that up to you're cultivating polarity natures, just fake sides. In other words, blaming urban impositions on other, not letting suburban impositions. We're in colonization's forced infrastructural pathology before there was even cars, with slavery in the north, with the slavery of our nature of our founders recorded. We're going to take a criminal insidiousness, understand this with the nature of convictions recorded, ill. So it's easy to go up and say, "Oh, condemn this and that." Take complaints, mandated course, mandated laws not being let follow. We have still sick branches. CT is cherry tree, fake branches. Well, God, they want to say, "Oh, someone made this up," or something like that. I'm not using that for proofs. Some guy who made up a story about whatever. CT is fake branches. George Washington didn't leave slavery entrenched here because he wanted to, because he had He had no choice. He had no freedom. Who our founders had the rules with the Constitutional Convention even after it. It's no joke. You're supposed to put the rights to religion. You have rights to religion tied to nutbags. Fake passion, fake morality natures. Can't defend themselves. Can't take a position to someone who's not playing these stupid abridged fact treatments that are only let progress through time. Inherently, actively, and progressively against each age of fact treatment nature. Together and distinctly and grouped and sequentially. We have systemic sequence shifting rackets recorded. Sequence shifting, dishonest sequence shifting, dishonest sequence treatments with priorities, with fact priorities, evidence priorities, dishonest. So, in other words, we have only let realized predatory litigation natures formal. Pretend they don't realize that because that's how they were raised as live progression cover-up needs in natures. Pretend they don't realize that you can't address the tactics that were using slavery that had already, before our founders, had already only like the Native Americans realized to forgotten education. Tactically denatured landscape and foodstuffs and value nature system means. And, you know, they say, oh, they give them cheap things. That's all they were allowed. They took away their means for, everything's denatured now. We're reliant upon experts with a terror system, never worse than terror. Terror is just one part of it, multi-front. The most important part is the insidious part that's holding that, so it never has to treat cases properly. And what's doing that is not letting anything reported from the outside of courts. One-way reports. So that's what we need in other nature of statutes. In other words, we'll see the Trinity is about this too. And so is radical Islam. They say, how come the president stops calling it radical Islam? Probably because I explained to him in a little tweet. In other words, there's organized crime with our fact treatment that's formed with modern languages, with the sciences, with their conviction natures through books and education, originally progressed, criminally and foreign influenced, each nation's, not sourced by one nation. This was for a method to keep everyone blaming on each other, to keep natures as natures in relationship to juxtaposed natures of criminal insidiousness as nations, criminally legalized, criminal insidiousness natures, incapable of correlation. Wasn't always like this. One proof it's not always like this because of the sophistication of our republic. This sophistication could never reveal the republic. They can't even fix healthcare that we all need. So how we do it? One thing we do is make a movie to do it, to explain. No one owns it. Who wants to take part of it can just get the advertisement. Maybe YouTube, someone wants to do it. But what we're going to do is explain that. How there were black agencies as victim predator roles. And how that was set up because they knew they were going to make fact treatment natures that could only be blaming on other things. And blaming on other things, you still have to blame your polarity nature, because now you're defending fact treatments that are abridged, that are a cheap sophistication since semi-ancient times. And nature is going to keep demonstrating negative value nature progressions, loss of its campus. There's no excuse for money, there's no excuse for the sabotage of the sciences in the cities and in the suburbs distinctly, but together, especially regarding means. Science, there's been science not let to speak the way right out of science. Through generations, what they call poverty was uncharged roles with this, with this northern slavery, with Hartford. Little packed box trouble. In other words, hurt, victims, a formal corruption, a formal evidence racket natures, database racket natures, only they're realized, tall areas. We have the Connecticut River goes right by the worst part. I mean, the most where people, they push people in relationships to each other, all on top of each other, not by accident. This was set up by colonization's laws that forced it. They so scary for anyone to even think about discussing trying to build anything better outside of internation monitored database relationships. And so no one's gonna even talk free when they're in there. Even our founders weren't free, and they want this explained. That's why trees, cherry tree, fake branches. They never chop down. And chop down a fake tree, not real branches, not real fake branches, still left up. That was for our fact treatments to fix. That's for us to be allowed to demonstrate recorded religious impositions, and in their name, we have interscience, including the sciences of the religions. That's why they put their movements. They are pushing the Obama administration, the Trump administration, the prior administration. Call it radical Islam. Call it radical Islam. You have to understand the radical correlation. We have our nature. Now, if we can't understand and the scientific needs to determine if the radical is present, which is manifest by progressive, positive value nature progressions, evolution. Not just these characters as areas, as nature. Fact treatment nature was criminally degraded, tortured fact treatment nature. So look what they came in with. It had nothing to do with parties, Republican and Democrat. And we're not going to, we have to demonstrate too how they play a game. Because they were raised by uncharged, sick campuses. They're ill fact treatment natures, the parties. And I'll entertain that as Oz. Everyone's wrong. Everyone. Except for me. Because I'm not making opinions. I'm only using what's not being, I'm trying to talk about the recorded sequence shifts and the recorded proofs of this, but no one will let me report that because no one will let it hurt because they were needed to pretending lies because the branches already recorded themselves as criminal predators with the areas inter-campus through time tied to this Detective Dylan and to his family and to my past neighbors, to some kids. Now they're men, but they grew up like little creeps. They had no father. But with the police, sick with the kids. They have untimely deaths tied to strangers tied to their groups. I don't even know them. It's because they lived. I haven't lived here since I was for like decades. I came back 6 years ago. The police in the other town recorded, confessed, tied to crimes with the police interbranch connections to my town. With agencies also recorded with ties to the areas unrealized, tied to recorded confessions regarding evidences crimes with police with and since the body dumping spots narratives and body dumping spot of Billy Grasso tied to interbranch Weathersfield actors with online verified confessions and roles, but that also tied to different natures of crime, all kinds of kids, and relationships that made to tie other people need to hide each other's lies against strangers. We have predatory prison cliques with the police forms. Nature's sick, just pushing people in the jail. Or they can't defend their logic without hiding lies, delusions, premises, offensive fact treatment rackets, tricks, forbidding the right to remain silent. I mean, the right to be presumed innocent, the right to not have made up charges against you, admitting their lies with torture. In other words, admitting an array of fake police reports from different departments for the same fake arrest used to sequence shift and pretend they didn't realize to hide their recorded roles of rape threats and with abuses of kids and students and of elderly tied to this. 'Cause we have sick courts, the probate courts are sick with the elderly, with their family members recorded with databases, crimes with the schools, drug dealing with the schools, with the people that grow up to be undercover or whatever with the police, but no good. Internation families, like in other words, with the trade center. All racket nature is tied to that. Investigations of that. Fake witness fabrications. Rackets with interstate fire departments. So they glorify all the service people for that. But they don't do it honestly. That's not how you protect the service people. That make more crazy negative value nature progressions. You put everyone in the truth that's not being used, touched lies as a weapon. Real and honest integrity, truth, and sequence, and real wisdom knows that the databases are lies, not for because they're trying to share. They're trained to share to hide how they have shared police of the market positions ill. No integrity of the police. They're faking. You try to note that they just make up whatever. Because they all need to pretend to defend each other together. In relationship to sanctions, threats against us too, not just other nations. In relationship to intellectual captivity of our agencies recorded. Lack of sophistication, predatory knaves, ill sciences, fake news. But the president is asked for this to be addressed. They don't let him. They don't let them. In other words, emotions and passions are being faked, obviously not true sequence, not letting trade center attack crimes reported, not letting interbranch crimes against children and elderly reported. In other words, the reason the need to have it reported is because once they hear that, in other words, they don't want to hear anything because they know that they can't lie. When they force physical conversations, they just in other words, we have already interbranch, intermilitary, internation, criminally influenced, only let realized standing predatory conviction natures, predatory litigation nature. We don't have legal nature voice. We didn't have science, or there wouldn't be poverty standing like this without this demonstrated, explained. In other words, so that's like sicker than being overt prejudice is what's got his arms around each fact treatment nature of whatever color they call it, whatever identity. See, because now if you call it white supremacy, something like that, you're keeping the sophistication of the organized crime. Now they understood. You're keeping the tactics that originally did that. That's what it was for. That was not just to force. It was to force hurt on them, on black people unequally. Worse, and worse against Native Americans too. Differentially against tribes and stuff like that. They get them fight against each other, build polarity nature, pseudo identity nature. Stolen education nature, only let realize that. Because negative value nature progressions will demonstrate we lost the way. The course that was revealed before negative value nature and progression, before criminal persuasions to all nations, areas, all branches, all only let realize predatory litigation nature. Too many generations we've not allowed that roles with fake prejudice needed to hide the extent of the internation sciences that originally had that entrenched here for the long-term breaching method against fact treatment nature. Because a nature divided into polarity natures is a perpetually abridged fact treatment nature, self-defended. So that's a perpetually fact treatment nature roles that are perpetually incapable of countering the sophistication that has our agencies as only realized standing laws. Pseudo-sophistication, comparison issues. evidence fabrication, librecreation, standing librecreation, cover-up natures, delusion propagation natures, needing to hide lies, delusions, premises, needing to hide criminal inclination, persuasions. All this was recorded. Take a report. I see all these, and they're going deeper too, because now they have to pretend they didn't realize and stuff further. But the media is hiding from stuff. The policing of the internet with the Facebook and with their investigators and with their interbranch and internation sources, they're hiding rackets they were in together. In other words, it's not business. It's not business when you have slavery. It's not business when you have long-term rackets that are only existent because that was made to facilitate them, to facilitate the impositions on urban areas blamed on other perpetually. The impositions blamed on even on Manhattan. People stacking in Manhattan with the wealthy. There's impositions on them they can't speak because then they have to compare, but they have to explain what's on the rest of the citizens with New York. All hurt, all forced to a shared value nature system that was never free. It was never, and recorded not free now. And the only left formal opinion natures pretending it's free are not letting science, as science, they're using science as a trick fact treatment weapon. The trick fact treatment natures, database racket natures. With our hospitals, psychology has internation sciences, like there's a Russian involved, confessed involved with the a Leahy family, a Jim Dede from another Irish family, Italian families with drugs and stuff like that, married into the Wethersfield police with like some KKK Confederate flag themed rape threats tied to the police, sequence shifts that were used to cover it up, with child predators in Sandy Hook prison next to Newtown, with also recorded sequence shifting with crimes with child predators with the area before they were there, with online crimes too. They're using online for evidence rackets to direct pretended like some Joey Quest or whatever his name is, some teacher in Hartford too, whatever his name like that. I think he goes by that with these people.